Most women never think about their earrings the way they think about their clothes. They think about whether the earrings go with the outfit. They think about the color, the metal, whether the occasion calls for something dressy or casual. But they almost never ask the question that actually determines whether an earring is helping them look their best or quietly working against them. The question is this: what is this earring doing to my face? Because earrings don't just sit on the ears. They sit at the exact point where your face meets the frame around it. Every earring you wear is creating a visual reference point right at the level of your jaw, your cheek, your eye, and depending on the shape, the weight, the length, and the way it sits on the lobe. That reference point is either lifting the eye toward your face's most beautiful features or pulling it down and away from them. At 60, this matters more than it did at 30, not because your face is less beautiful, because the geometry of how earrings interact with a mature face is simply different from how they interact with a younger one, and nobody tells you that. They just keep selling you the same earrings. Today we're changing that. 5 earrings to stop wearing, with the exact reason why, and 5 specific alternatives that do the opposite job with the same precision. Stakes. Before we get into the list, I'm planting 2 things. First, earring number 3 on the avoid list is the one that trips up almost every woman over 60, because it's a style that every stylist and every fashion article tells you to wear. The advice isn't wrong, but the version most women are wearing is. I'll explain exactly what that means and what the right version looks like when we get there. Second, the replacement for number 5 is the one that genuinely surprises people every time I bring it up, because it solves a problem most women don't even know they have. A problem that's been sitting on their earlobe for years, quietly drawing the eye to exactly the wrong place. Let's go through all 5. Welcome back to Style After 60, where we give you real mechanisms behind style decisions, not just lists. Subscribe if you want this every week. Let's start with the most dramatic one, because the contrast between what it does and what people think it does is genuinely striking. Heavy chandelier earrings. The multi-tiered, ornate, deeply glamorous drop earrings that can take up significant visual real estate below the ear feel like a statement. They feel luxurious and dressed up and like you made an effort. And on the right face, in the right decade of life, they absolutely can be. The problem after 60 is not the drama, it's the weight and the length combined. Here's the mechanism. Heavy chandelier earrings create 2 problems simultaneously. The first is physical. The weight creates tension on the earlobe, pulling it downward throughout the day. As earlobes naturally lose elasticity with age, which they do, for the same reason skin loses elasticity elsewhere, heavy earrings accelerate and emphasize that downward pull. The earlobe stretches, the piercing hole elongates. Both of these things draw the eye directly to the area of the ear where they're most visible, at exactly the moment you're trying to draw the eye upward toward your face. The second problem is visual. A long, heavy chandelier that extends significantly below the jaw creates what stylists at Art in Aging describe specifically. It emphasizes the jaw and neck area in ways that aren't flattering as skin loosens. The eye follows the earring downward, past the face, to the jawline and neck, the areas where skin has naturally softened with age. The earring is doing the opposite of what jewelry is supposed to do, instead of framing the face and drawing the eye toward it. A heavy chandelier earring is directing the eye past the face to exactly where you don't want it to land. The fix is specific, not don't wear drop earrings. Drop earrings can be among the most flattering choices after 60 when they're the right length and weight. The fix is lightweight drops that end at or just below the jawline, not past it. Drops at jawline length create a frame around the lower face that draws the eye inward and upward rather than downward and away. They close the visual frame at the jaw rather than extending it beyond it. Here's the secondary benefit that makes this replacement even more powerful. Lightweight drops sway when you move. Movement in an earring creates what style experts consistently describe as a youthful energy, because stillness reads as fixed and completed, while movement reads as alive and present. A lightweight drop that catches light as you turn your head is doing something a heavy, stationary chandelier can never do. It creates the impression that the person wearing it is in motion, engaged, energetic. That impression is among the most consistently youthful things an earring can communicate. One practical detail. Look for the word lightweight specifically when shopping for drop earrings. Brass, gold-plated brass, and resin drops can achieve significant visual impact at a fraction of the physical weight of solid gold or silver at the same size. The visual presence of a drop earring is determined almost entirely by its design, not its mass. Today, hold any chandelier earring you own up to your face in the mirror. Look at where the bottom of the earring hangs. Does it end at your jaw, or does it extend past it, toward your neck? That single observation tells you whether it's framing your face or pulling the eye past it. Stop 2. Tiny studs that are too small. Wear instead. Medium studs with a light-catching quality. This one surprises people because tiny studs sound like the safe choice. They sound tasteful and understated and age-appropriate, and in the wrong size. They're actually doing one of the most counterintuitive things an earring can do. They make the face look larger. Here's the mechanism. A stud earring creates a visual reference point right at the level of the cheek or jaw. When that reference point is very small, smaller than a pencil eraser, it creates no meaningful visual relationship with the face. The eye registers the face first and the earring as an afterthought. Without a meaningful reference point at the ear, the face reads at its full natural width, unchallenged and unframed. The size of an earring creates a proportional relationship with the face it's framing. A stud that is too small for a face doesn't frame it. It gets lost beside it, and when the frame disappears, the face reads as larger, wider, and less defined than it actually is. This is the opposite of what studs are supposed to do. The right-size stud creates a visual anchor at the ear that provides proportion to the face, giving the eye a reference point that defines the perimeter of the face and makes the features within it read as more organized and composed. The sweet spot confirmed by multiple style sources is 6 to 8 millimeters. That's roughly the size of a small grape. Substantial enough to register from a conversational distance, subtle enough not to overwhelm. At this size, a stud with a light-catching quality, a pearl, a gemstone, a diamond-look cubic zirconia, even a well-polished metal surface, provides something the tiny stud never can. It reflects light back onto the face. This is the part worth understanding specifically, because it applies to every piece of jewelry worn near the face. Reflective metals and gemstones placed at the ear bounce light toward the cheek and jaw, brightening the complexion from the side. This side lighting effect is exactly what portrait photographers create artificially with reflectors, a warm, directional light source at cheekbone level that lifts the face and makes the skin look more luminous. A medium stud with a reflective surface is creating that same effect naturally, every time you wear it, without you doing anything else. A matte or too small earring either absorbs the available light or creates no meaningful light interaction at all. The difference in how the face reads from across a room, with a light-catching medium stud versus a tiny flat one, is visible and consistent. Metal choice matters here too. Warm metals, gold, rose gold, warm brass, bounce a slightly warmer toned light onto the face, which works with mature skin's undertones to add glow rather than washing it out. Cool white metals, bright silver, white gold, platinum, work beautifully too, particularly for women with cool-toned complexions or silver hair. The key is that the surface catches and returns light rather than absorbing it. Today, hold any stud you own up to your ear and look in the mirror at a distance of about 5 feet. The distance of a typical conversation. If you can barely see it, it's too small to be doing the framing work a stud should do. Then hold a larger one in the same position and notice the difference in how your face reads with that reference point present. Stop 3. Very large, thick hoops. Wear instead medium textured hoops, 1.5 to 2.5 inches. Here's the one I flagged, the one where the advice you've been given is right about the style but wrong about the size. Every stylist tells women over 60, wear hoops. Hoops soften the face. Hoops are modern. Hoops are flattering. And all of that is true for the right size hoop. The version most women are wearing when they follow that advice is too large and too thick. And those two qualities together create the exact opposite of what hoops are supposed to do. Let me explain both problems separately. Size first. A very large hoop, 3 inches in diameter or more, extends well below the jawline on most faces. And just like the chandelier earring, anything that extends past the jaw directs the eye past the face. The frame created by a very large hoop doesn't close at the jaw, it opens below it, drawing the eye downward toward the neck and away from the face you're trying to highlight. Thickness second. A thick hoop has physical mass. That mass creates physical weight on the earlobe, and the same mechanism we described with chandelier earrings applies here. Weight on a mature lobe creates visible tension, elongates the piercing hole over time, and draws attention to the lobe itself rather than to the face. A thick, heavy hoop on a mature lobe can create what the Art in Aging style source describes specifically as unflattering shadows and a visual heaviness that can make the entire face look tired. The sweet spot is specific and confirmed. Medium hoops, roughly 1.5 to 2.5 inches in diameter, in a lightweight metal. At this size, the hoop closes below the jaw rather than extending past it, creating a finished frame for the lower face. Light in weight means no lobe tension, no elongated piercing, no downward pull. The additional upgrade is texture, a textured hoop, twisted, hammered, or rope detail. Catches light at multiple points rather than reflecting it in one flat arc. Multiple light points along the hoop create visual dimension at the jaw and cheek, brightening the lower face without adding visual weight. This is the quietly powerful quality that Art in Aging describes specifically for mature faces. Today, if you own large hoops, measure them. If they extend past your jaw when you're wearing them, they're redirecting the eye away from your face. The right size hoop should close exactly at or just below the jaw. Stop 4. Long dangles that fall past the jaw. Wear instead short drops that hit at or just above the jaw. This distinction is finer than it sounds, and it's worth understanding precisely because it's the difference between a drop earring that frames the face and one that undermines everything above it. Most women know that drop earrings are generally more flattering than studs on fuller or rounder faces. They create vertical elongation that counteracts horizontal width. What most women don't know is that there is a specific length past which that elongation stops being flattering and starts being a problem. That length is the jawline. Here's the mechanism, and it builds directly on what we've already discussed. A drop that ends at the jawline closes the visual frame of the face at the jaw. The eye enters at the top of the earring, follows it down to the jaw, and returns to the face. The face is framed. The eye stays on the face. A drop that extends past the jaw breaks the frame. The eye follows the earring past the jaw, past the chin, into the neck area. And the neck area is, for most women over 60, the area where the visible signs of aging are most concentrated. A long drop earring is not just failing to help. It's actively pointing the eye at exactly the wrong destination. Multiple style sources confirm this specifically for women over 50. Drop earrings that fall past the jaw can actually emphasize the jaw and neck area in ways that aren't flattering as skin loosens. Shorter drops create a frame that's proportional to the face without pulling focus downward or creating an unintended sagging effect. 1 to 2 centimeters below the earlobe is the ideal drop length for most faces over 60. At that length, the earring creates enough movement and visual interest to animate the face without directing the eye past the features you want to highlight. Here's a detail about the replacement that most earring guides never mention. A short drop worn with a small top stud or decorative back creates what's called an ear jacket. A two-part earring where something sits in front of and behind the lobe simultaneously. Ear jackets have been growing in popularity specifically because they work so well for mature ears. The front piece sits at the lobe level, and the back piece sits behind and slightly above the lobe on the outer ear. Together, they create a layered, dimensional look that reads as modern and intentional rather than simply a small earring. More importantly, the back element of an ear jacket draws the eye upward and backward along the ear, toward the outer cartilage, creating a subtle visual lift that neither a simple stud nor a simple drop achieves alone. It's one of the most modern and effective earring formats for women over 60, and most women have never tried one. Do this today. Put on any long drop earring you own. Look in the mirror and trace with your eye where the earring ends. Is it inside your jaw, right at it, or hanging below it, pointing toward your neck? That endpoint is where the eye goes when it looks at you wearing that earring. Now you know exactly which drops to retire and which to keep. Stop 5. Wire back earrings. On mature lobes, wear instead post back earrings or huggy hoops. This is the one I flagged at the very beginning, the one most women have never had explained to them, and it's the one that, once you see it, you cannot unsee. Wire back earrings are the ones where a thin curved wire threads through the piercing and hangs loose on the other side. They're extremely common. A huge proportion of drop and dangle earrings use this closure. For decades, they've been a standard part of any earring collection. Here's what they're doing that you may not have noticed. As the years of wearing earrings accumulate, piercing holes naturally elongate and stretch slightly. This happens to virtually everyone with pierced ears. It's the result of years of earring weight, gravity, and the natural loss of elasticity in the lobe tissue. The piercing hole becomes slightly larger and slightly more oval than it was at the original piercing point. A wire-back earring hangs from that hole. The wire sits inside the elongated piercing and hangs outward. And because the wire is visible at the base of the lobe, where it exits the ear on the front side, it spotlights the exact shape of the piercing hole. If the hole has stretched or elongated, the wire draws the eye directly to that elongation. The jewelry, instead of drawing the eye upward toward the face, is drawing the eye downward to the lobe itself, to the physical evidence of years of earring weight on tissue that has become more fragile. Style writer Karen Tarver, who researched this topic specifically, puts it plainly. Wire styles really spotlight the pulled-down appearance of an earlobe. That spotlight is the opposite of what you want any piece of jewelry doing near your face. The fix is a post-back earring, one with a solid post that goes straight through the piercing, with a backing that sits flat against the back of the lobe. The post does not interact with the shape of the elongated hole in the same way. It sits straight through it rather than hanging from it. The lobe reads as clean, compact, and intact rather than stretched. Here's the face-lifting bonus that this swap provides. And this is what I meant when I said this one does more than most women expect. A post-back earring, worn with a small stud or huggy hoop, sits high on the earlobe, right at the top of the lobe closest to the face. That position, high on the lobe, places the visual interest of the earring as close to the cheek and eye as possible. The eye travels upward from the earring toward the face's most expressive features, a huggy hoop specifically, a small, close-fitting hoop that hugs the lobe tightly. Worn at the top of the lobe creates a subtle visual frame right at cheekbone level, lifting the entire visual impression of the ear and the face beside it. This is the most quietly powerful change on this entire list. A wire back drop to a post back huggy isn't just a hardware change. It's moving the visual point of interest from the lowest point of the earlobe to the highest. And that shift in position is a genuine, visible lift of where the eye goes when it looks at your face from the side. Today, look at your earring collection and separate the post backs from the wire backs. The wire backs that you love for the design they carry. Can the design be found in a post back version? Most can. That one swap changes not just the comfort, but the entire visual story the earring is telling about your lobe. Here's the single principle that connects every stop and every replacement on this list. Earrings direct the eye, always. Every earring you put on is creating a path for the eye to follow, and that path either ends at your face, stays at your face, and lifts upward toward your eyes, or it ends somewhere lower, somewhere past your face, somewhere you didn't choose. The problem, earrings all have one thing in common. They direct the eye downward or away. Heavy chandeliers pull it past the jaw. Tiny studs leave the face unframed. Oversized thick hoops drag the lobe down and point the eye outward. Long drops exit the face below the chin. Wire backs spotlight the lowest point of the lobe. The replacement earrings all have one thing in common. They direct the eye toward the face. Medium studs with light-catching surfaces bounce light back toward the cheek. Textured medium hoops create multiple light points along the jaw. Short drops close the frame at the jawline. Post-back huggies sit at the top of the lobe, as close to the cheekbone as possible. Here's the test you can apply to any earring you own or are considering buying. Put it on. Step back 5 feet from a mirror. Look at your eyes first. Then let your gaze follow wherever the earring directs it. Did your eye end up at your cheek, at your eyes, or did it travel past your jaw toward your neck? That's it. That's the complete evaluation. An earring that keeps your eye on your face is doing its job. An earring that sends your eye past your face is doing someone else's job, and that job is not yours. Once you understand that earrings are directing your eye whether you intend them to or not, you'll look at your earring collection completely differently. Not just which ones are pretty. That's always been the starting question, and pretty is still a fine place to start. The complete question is, which direction does this earring send my eye? And does that direction serve my face? Those two questions will change every earring decision you make from this moment forward. 5 earrings to retire. 5 specific replacements, each with the mechanism behind why it works better. Stop the heavy chandeliers that direct the eye past the jaw. Replace with lightweight drops that close the frame at the jawline and sway with movement. Stop the tiny studs that leave the face unframed. Replace with 6 to 8 millimeter light-catching studs that provide proportion and bounce light toward the cheek. Stop the oversized thick hoops that pull the lobe down and extend past the jaw. Replace with medium textured hoops, 1.5 to 2.5 inches. That frame without dragging. Stop the long drops that exit the face and point the eye toward the neck. Replace with short drops and ear jackets that keep the eye inside the face. And stop the wire back earrings that spotlight the elongated lobe. Replace with post-back studs and huggy hoops that sit high, sit clean, and direct the eye upward toward the cheekbone. None of these replacements require an expensive collection. The geometry and weight matter infinitely more than the price point. A lightweight hammered brass hoop at the right size does more for your face than a heavy gold chandelier at 10 times the cost. You've been choosing earrings your whole life. What changes today is understanding exactly what they're doing once they're on, and making that choice with intention. If this gave you something real to work with, give this video a like and subscribe to Style After 60 for more of this every single week. And tell me in the comments, which of these 5 did you recognize in your own earring collection? Which stop surprised you most? I read every single comment, and I genuinely want to know which one made you look at your jewelry box differently today.